Hello my lovelies, I hope you're all well. Today we're reacting to the best of Christopher Hitchens on political correctness. I love me some Christopher Hitchens. I really wish he was still alive. I would absolutely love to know his thoughts on what is happening in the world right now. But sadly, he is not with us. But let's watch this anyway. Christopher Hitchens on political correctness.
Yes, I have a question regarding how the media has really changed in the past few decades. There was a time when things were simplistic, almost overly simplistic, to the point of black and white. We were omnibenevolent. We could firebomb Dresden, and there was nothing wrong with it. But these evil soldiers who were driven entirely by world domination could do no right. And the Japanese, we had some offensive terms for them. Is it possible that things could or have swung into the opposite direction too far, to the degree where the contrast is so reduced that it becomes difficult to tell which shade of gray is darker?
Yes.
Well, I think if I guess your question correctly, I think what you may be asking me to comment on is, or enlarge on, is what I mentioned earlier about pseudo or bogus multiculturalism. In other words, you could get the impression from a number of commentators and from a sort of mentality that's becoming regnant in the mass media, that to be a Muslim is to be a member of an ethnic minority, shall we say. That your proclamations of jihad are something to do with a civil rights struggle for a neglected or despised group of people who have no alternative but to be what they are. If I've got you wrong on that, I apologize, but that's what I took from your question. I certainly think this has become an extraordinary problem. It's not true, by the way, just about Islamism either, that people are afraid of attacking any expression of faith because it's an attack on a community.
Yeah.
And communities have to be respected, and communities mustn't have their feelings hurt. I had it when I published my book on Mother Teresa. Many people refused to have me on because it was an attack not on the papacy or on Catholic dogma or on her very extreme and fundamentalist interpretation of it. No, it was an attack on the Catholic community, much of it made up of poor and vulnerable people, and so on. I had many editors and chat show people explaining that's why they weren't going to allow me to come on the television about it. So, yes, all of this is I think going to have to be confronted by those of us who began by thinking that a multicultural, multi-ethnic, multi-religious society was a good idea, and are now being put in the position where its values, so to speak, are being negated, mutated, and turned against us, so that all religions have to be treated with equal respect, not just with equal consideration, but they all deserve a kind of protection. The exact opposite of what's meant by a proper multicultural society, where everything can be discussed and anyone can take part in the conversation.
Just to interject here, my personal views on multiculturalism and a multi-ethnic society is it doesn't work. It just doesn't. We have seen it. It's only gotten worse as well since this particular speech, because Christopher Hitchens has been dead for a number of years now. God only knows what he would think about the world today. But he's such an eloquent speaker, and I really miss him as an orator,
I actually am going to switch my question a bit because I liked his so much. And I think you skirted around the issue that he really wanted to address was, well, that we're educated, like with propaganda courses and that, about the history of how the enemy has always been demonized, and that to rally the people. But now reporters seek out ways of humanizing the enemy, and have we gone too far? Now can we actually, are we too forgiving of our enemies, or are we taught that, well, I think that's the question. Like, are we now incapable of perceiving evil?
Yeah, good. I mean, all right, then I'll enlarge. mosques are blown up every day now in Baghdad by Muslims. Something that not everyone was ready to see or to understand. Places of worship, in fact, are practically never in the innumerable civil wars and strifes that I've covered. I don't think I've ever seen a case where a place of worship has been attacked by a non-believer, by a humanist or a skeptic or an atheist. It's always places of worship are desecrated and blasphemed by other believers. I think the last time that wouldn't have been true would have been in the Spanish Civil War, when the anarchists in Catalonia did burn the Catholic churches down. I remember George Orwell saying it was a mistake that they didn't get rid of the Sagrada Familia Cathedral in Barcelona while they had the chance. Perhaps a slightly heartless observation.
Yeah.
But now, if it's in Bosnia, if it's a synagogue or a mosque destroyed, it's by Christian, Catholic or Orthodox fascists. If it's in Iraq, if it's a Shia mosque, it's been destroyed by the Al-Qaeda forces, and if it's a Sunni one, by the forces of the Mahdi army. But we don't call them the parties of God, we call them insurgents. We don't even call them terrorists.
The press uses
So I think that is a huge capitulation. The fact is the parties of God have Iraq in their jaws, and they're tearing the society to death, and they're desecrating religious monuments and places of worship and pilgrimages every day, and killing children in religious schools. And we worry that a small paper in Denmark publishing a satire about the Prophet Muhammad might be offensive to Muslims. Aren't Muslims upset at the mass murder of worshippers in mosques? What kind of sense of proportion have we lost? Quite a sight.
Apparently not. Apparently not. Yeah. Muslims don't care about other Muslims killing them. They only care when it's another religion.
Any sense of what's obscene, what's hateful, what's murderous, and what's truly offensive. Yes, 1,000 times yes, we have to say that.
Yes, gosh, where to begin? As I said, it's been quite a few years since Christopher Hitchens made that speech. I mean, that video itself was published 7 years ago, but I know that speech would have been published well before then. And things have only gotten worse, haven't they? We have imported the third world, and now we are becoming the third world as a result. I didn't sign up for it. And I think in a lot of ways, in our kindness in the West, we have been ignorant of the facts that other cultures bring and the degradation that has ensued. You know, a lot of these cultures from the third world do not have any respect for women and girls. And a lot of times they don't have any respect for anybody who is not of their faith and culture. So multiculturalism is a failed experiment. But honestly, I don't know what the answer is to going back. I don't know. I think it's gone too far. And here in the UK, we're about to have a general election in the next, 5.5, 6 weeks. And the Conservatives, who are only Conservative in name, by the way, they are not Conservative at all, they are going to lose. They've been the government for the past 14 years. Conservatism is completely alien to what this party have done, this government have done. They are going to lose, and we are probably going to end up with some kind of left-wing coalition between the Labour Party and others. And that will mean the complete destruction of my country over the next 5 years. So things are not looking great for the UK. They're just not. But what can you do? What can you do? Anyway, thank you for joining me, and I'll see you very soon.